Welcome, everyone, to Pathetic the Podcast. We are here. Jeff and I are in the building. Teddy wasn't feeling well tonight. It might be Knicks fever he has. I'm not sure. But hopefully Teddy feels better. He'll be back with us next week. But I'm here with my buddy Jeff. Jeff, how are we doing? How's the move up to New Jersey here?
Actually, you know what? I stayed in North Carolina because of work. It's kind of hard to leave for a couple months, but I'll be coming down. I'll be coming back for, I don't know, maybe a few weeks in the summer, probably for the 4th of July or maybe August. I'll kind of play it by ear. But I do think Uncle Ted is just embarrassed because I beat him in golf. He doesn't want to face the music and talk about our golf outing, but that's another conversation. But no, man, we had a great time when they were down here. But outside of that, man, I'm doing great.
Awesome. Still the summer of Jeff. Even if you're not up here, it's still
That's right.
the summer of Jeff. So I'm going to
That's right.
go into that. But we have a packed show for you tonight. We're going to start off with the talk of the city, the talk of the town. It is the New York Knicks. We have an NBA Finals. We have a championship series in this town for the first time in a long time outside of the Yankees. An awesome series. I think the last time was if you have a series, not counting the giant Super Bowls, which is a one-game thing. If you're talking about a 2-week series, the last one was the Rangers Stanley Cup, where they lost in 2014, I want to say. So we are ready to go here. Jeff, let me get your first thoughts, A, on the Eastern Conference Finals, and then B, what are you thinking about playing the Spurs going forward here?
Well, let's start with the fact that this is great for the NBA, right? Because you have Wemby, the future star of the league, on the grand stage going up against the New York Knicks in the most famous arena in the world, right? So for the NBA, they couldn't have asked for a better finals. And this is, I think, going to be by far the most watched NBA finals that we've seen. I don't want to say ever because I got to look at the numbers. I don't have the data to back that up, but certainly over the past 10 or 15 years. And to me, Mike, as far as the Knicks, the two biggest stories, in my opinion, is Mikal Bridges, who's playing lights out, and the coach. This coach was, I don't want to say under fire necessarily, but a lot of Knicks fans were not happy getting rid of Thibodeau, including me. I thought he earned his right to get another shot with this team because he was an inch away from the finals last year. But I think Mike Brown has done a better job overall. They're buying into his system a lot more. He's obviously utilizing the bench a lot more. They bought into him, and they're still buying into him. And credit to Mike Brown for not giving up on Mikal Bridges. When a lot of people in this town, right, including most Knicks fans, I would say, wanted him benched. They didn't want him to start. But he kept putting him out there. And eventually, Mikal Bridges, to me, became the star of the team outside of Brunson. We know what Brunson is. He's basically the Derek Jeter of the team. But the way Mikal Bridges is playing, to me, that was the catapult that really created this dominance of the Knicks.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100% on Mike Brown. He's really stepped up. I think people were freaking out when they were down 2-1 to the Hawks in that first round series. And all he's done since then is saying, we're not panicking. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. And these guys are going to make shots. And they have made shots at an unbelievable clip. Now, what I will say about the finals is I'm going to use an analogy that probably you and I will get. Our older people won't get it. The younger people probably won't get it. This is like the video game Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, where you're playing all these kind of weird guys with one-trick ponies, and you're able to beat them pretty easily. We're stepping up to the finals now. We're playing now Mike Tyson. There's no more jokers hanging around here. There's no teams that, got here by luck. The Spurs have been a really, really good team all year, and they took it to the defending champs and beat them in their own building in Game 7. So this is an absolute step up in class for the Knicks. Now, I think the way they're playing and the way that they've been built up, and the way that they're rested, and they're, as you said, the bench is totally part of this team, that this is going to be an absolute heavyweight battle. going forward in between these two teams. And I think we're going to get a really, really good series, and we're going to get 2 solid weeks of really good basketball to watch, I'm hoping.
What is your prediction? What do you got? Knicks in what?
Knicks in 6, and they almost burned Madison Square Garden down on that. Because don't forget, on Game 6, there is also a World Cup game going on at MetLife Stadium that same day.
Yep.
So you're going to have that going on there. You're going to have people in Penn Station trying to get to that World Cup game. And then you're going to have people coming into Penn Station to go to the Knicks game in Game 6 with a chance for them to close it out. It's going to be a wild scene at Madison Square Garden and Penn Station. I would not want to be a commuter trying to get into the office or get on the Long Island Railroad or NJ Transit to get into Penn Station on that day, because I want to get as far away from there as possible if I'm a commuter.
Yeah, it's going to be complete pandemonium. And, a couple things about the Knicks, too. Number one, it's time that Karl Anthony Towns gets his flowers. I don't think there's been an athlete, not in the history of New York, but in recent memory, that gets more disrespected than this guy. Soft, not that good, overrated. I just don't buy it. When Uncle Ted was down here, him, and my dad were watching the game, and he kept saying it. And this is a guy who hates the Knicks, right? Uncle Ted hates the Knicks. And he kept waxing poetic about just how, I would say, almost underrated Cat has been as a Knick. And yeah, he's going to have his moments where he's like a little soft, bad fouls. But most big men have that issue with big men. So it's not a big deal to me. But honestly, man, he's been a big piece of this team. He's done well in the playoffs. But the Knicks, I agree, Mike. I got the Knicks winning, but I also think it's going to be in 7. I think it's going to be in 7. I think this is going to go all the way to the end. This is a true heavyweight fight. I think Wemby is going to come to play. He's going to play relaxed because he's so young. Even though he's a rising star, I don't feel like there's this immense amount of pressure on him. I think there's a way more pressure on the Knicks. Being in New York, been a long time since they won. You have a lot of Jet fans who are Knicks fans who want something, right? They want to get that sweet victory taste. And it's just New York, man. Like, the pressure is really on the Knicks. I think I saw the odds. The Knicks were, the Spurs were minus 200. I think that's fair with the home game, the home court advantage. But, listen, I think it's going to be a great series. I'd be surprised if this thing doesn't go all the way to 7.
Yeah, it's going to be a great series. It's going to be awesome. What I love about the Knicks' chances, and you could say what you want about Wemby and how it's going to be really difficult for him to stop, but there are 8 or 9 guys on the Knicks who at any time could come into the game and hit big 3 after big 3. You have Landry Shamet, who hasn't missed anything in any of these games. You have Deuce McBride, who comes off the bench and hits a big 3, and everyone who's a Knicks fan in the other building starts yelling Deuce, and you could hear it in those other arenas. Now, I don't think that's going to happen in San Antonio. I think it's going to be very difficult for Knicks fans to get into that building, but I wouldn't surprise me if you do hear some Knicks fans chanting in San Antonio over those 2 days. But I will say on Saturday, or I think it's Saturday or Monday, whatever the first game at Madison Square Garden is, that is going to be some fun antics going on around that building. I would want to venture in. The only issue I'm going to have is, one, I'm leaving for London on the 21st or 22nd. So if it does go 7 games, I'm probably not going to be able to get to the parade, which I'm going to be upset about because it's been a long time since I've been at a championship parade on the Canyon of Heroes. And 2, I'm not a young man anymore. So running around with all these kids going nuts, it's a little past my scene. So, yeah.
Well, you also wonder, I think the crowd's going to be ruckus. There's no doubt, especially outside the stadium. I just wonder, because of the ticket prices, are you going to get the real blue-collar, hardcore fans in there? That's the only concern I have about, not concern, but the question I have about how's the crowd going to be. I don't think it'll be like, the 90s Knicks or the back in the day Knicks where you had the blue-collar fans and some celebrities in there and some rich guys. Now you have pretty much all suits, right? I mean, to afford these tickets, unless you saved a lot of money over the past year, you're going to get a lot of the suits in there. That's the only concern I have about this crowd getting into the game. But listen, man, somehow, some way, the Knicks fans find a way to go crazy and get into it. But that's my
I
only concern: the high ticket
there
prices
there are
isn't going to keep
still
them
there are
good.
still going to be enough crazy suits. There just because you have money doesn't mean you can't be a crazy New York Knicks fan because this is a
So,
starved fan base and a lot of the season ticket holders um, go and get these tickets much lower than what they're paying for on StubHub. So
right,
they're still an expensive ticket. It's an NBA Finals ticket. It's still going to be $400, $500, $600 probably face value on a
yeah,
ticket.
at the
But
Garden essentially.
yeah, absolutely. But if you bought the season tickets, you're not going to give up that ticket to go to the NBA Finals unless you're getting, $10,000 for the ticket, which you might. But what's the difference between that and seeing your team in an NBA Finals game in Madison Square Garden with a chance? This is not like the '99 team, which had absolutely no shot against Tim Duncan and David Robinson. I think this team has an absolute shot to win the whole thing and to have it be a really competitive series, regardless of what they have to win. But I think they have a good matchup. The only issue you're going to have is if Wemby starts going off and you get some of these other guys who are, some of the other players start to do some of, Champagne or whatever that guy's name is, doing his thing. I would be a little worried about that. But you have, as I said, like 8 or 9 guys on this Knicks team that you could think come in and make a big shot if you need him to. If Josh Hart gets off to a slow start, you bring in Shamit, or you bring
Yeah.
in McBride, or you bring in one of these other guys, and you have Bridges who's going to have a game, and you're going to have Jalen Brunson come down the stretch and do what Jalen Brunson does. So you just wanted to get it close in the fourth quarter and let Jalen Brunson do his thing.
Oh yeah, I think the Knicks have more than a shot because of Jalen Brunson. When you have a clutch player like that on your team, listen, you know the deal, Mike. This goes for almost any sport, especially when there's two teams that can compete and they're very similar in terms of overall just like skill, right? It comes down to the clutch plays. It comes down to the big shots, right? Even if it's not every game, there's 2 or 3 games throughout a 7 game series that come down to the final minute and a half. And you can see Brunson, which usually happens, man. He starts out, he's throwing up some air balls, bad shots, not looking good. And then all of a sudden, that fourth quarter comes. This guy puts up 25 points and hits that game-winning shot. Even if it's not the buzzer, it's a shot that puts them in a position to win the game. So when you got a guy like Brunson, the Derek Jeter of the Knicks, you absolutely have a shot. Shouldn't be favored. I think the Spurs should be favored. But I still, and I'm not just saying that as somebody who likes the Knicks, that I think they're going to win in 7. I truly believe the Knicks are going to win in 7. I really think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think right now it's Knicks are plus 155 and the Spurs are minus 185 right now. So a little money coming on the Knicks a little bit here to start. We're looking at that price. I think people were really excited when it was like almost 2-1 for the Knicks to get there. I think a lot of money jumped in right away and kind of lowered it a little bit from 200 down to 185. But that's going to be a great game on tomorrow is when game one will be, probably today when we get this thing out to everyone when we're recording this on Tuesday. But going to be a great series. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. This has been so long coming for Knicks fans and for New York sports. Has really been in a kind of a doldrums outside of the Yankees run last season or 2 seasons ago. This is something where you really want to enjoy it because you don't know when it's going to come back. You think
Yep.
of the 95 Orlando Magic where you said, oh, these guys are going to be back every single year with Shaq and Penny Hardaway, and they never got back to the finals. You think of
Yep.
some of the other teams that have come along that say, oh, these guys are going to be here every single year, and they never get back. You look at Dan Marino. You thought Dan Marino's going to be in all these Super Bowls and enjoy everything, and they never get back. So enjoy the ride, enjoy the fun and the just the great thing that sports does for you when your team's doing well in the playoffs. Just enjoy it and let's have some fun with this NBA Finals because I'm really looking forward to the next 2 weeks here.
Yeah, and you're right. Enjoy it because it's hard to get back. We see it all the time. Teams have these runs, and the next few years they're not. We see it with the Giants. The Giants every 5 years they make the playoffs, and then they take 5 steps backwards, right? And I got to tell you too, Mike. Before we move on to, I guess we'll talk football next. The Cavs didn't stand a chance, bro. Like I'm watching that game with Uncle Tad and my dad, and there wasn't a second in any of those games that I thought the Cavs can win. I mean, it was over. It was over in the first quarter in most of these games, in my opinion. Like
Yep.
when they were up 20, the Cavs could not compete. I didn't
Yep.
think for 1 second they had a shot. Even when they cut it to like 15, I think it was the last
Yep.
game they played. I'm like, yeah, it'll be 25 in the
Yeah,
next 5 years.
they ripped their hearts out in that game one when they came back and won that game where they had absolutely no business winning, and the leaving their timeouts in their pocket, not calling timeouts. We talked about it on the last episode, but that right after that, the series was essentially over because there was no other way that and you saw some of in a third quarter of I think game 3. They were just standing around like it was an all-star game, just letting the Knicks come right down the lane and dunk it and hit open threes and not really throwing the ball all over the place. And yeah, I agree that the Cavs were absolutely cooked after that first game.
Yeah, and James Harden is the most. Like he is the anti Jalen Brunson. He's the opposite.
Correct.
He's great. He's a Hall of Famer, but I mean, he's probably the worst big game great player I've ever seen. Right? Great player, great career. Again, clear-cut Hall of Famer. But in a big spot, he completely melts. It's unbelievable.
Yep. Well, we're looking forward to that. Everyone enjoy. Like I said, we will be talking about that. I might even hop on tomorrow night and just record a quick little something just with a recap of game one. We might hop on here, so keep your eye out for that as we go. But I want to move on to the other big story that's been going on here lately is the NFL league year actually started yesterday at 4:00, and we had it off and running pretty quickly here in terms of the overall NFL plus what the Giants have been doing. So you have the big Myles Garrett trade. You have the A.J. Brown trade, first reported by Diana Rossini. I just want to make sure I'm giving her the credit for the reporting on that A.J. Brown trade. So it was hers first. So
True.
And the Giants getting Odell Beckham Jr. back. The league always has something going on in the NFL, man. There's always something, whether it's a schedule 2 weeks ago, you have now the free agency starting, and next, before you know it, we're going to be playing football pretty soon here. So
I know. So I got to start with the Beckham thing because that's the big news. Top of some other big news, which we can talk about and not talk about. It's up to you. On Beckham. So let's think about what Beckham is. Beckham is a guy that is no risk and potentially a decent reward. And I've been saying this, Mike, for the past 3 weeks or really a couple of months where I want to sign Beckham because there's no risk involved whatsoever. There's only the potential of a possible reward. Now, I don't say high reward because I don't think Beckham is going to be a great player here. He's not going to be the Beckham of old. He's going to compete for the number 3 or 4 spot. You know what I mean? So for me, I don't look at this as a problem at all. But at the same time, I don't look at this as like I'm doing backflips and cartwheels because Odell Beckham is here. Like I've seen Giant fans who are like, oh, we're excited he's back because of the nostalgia. The nostalgia of what?
Yeah.
He was on losing teams his whole career here, right? It's not like Plaxico Burress or Amani Toomer came back. This is a guy who, let's be honest, man, embarrassed the franchise on many occasions, whether it's urinating in the end zone, the boat trip, blasting Eli Manning on the Lil Wayne podcast, which he regrets because now he realizes Eli was the guy getting the best numbers. But to me, like, there's no good nostalgia with Beckham. It's just a smart football move because you're not paying him anything, and he wants to be here. And that's a big thing for me, man. And we talk about this on a lot of shows, right? Like when a player wants to be here, there's a certain motivation they have that maybe their body can't compete with. But that motivation is very important, especially with a guy like Beckham. You know what I mean? So I was, again, happy with it. but I've seen some Giant fans who were like, buying Beckham jerseys and, playing old highlights. I'm like, just like, calm down. He's going to be, if he makes the team, he's going to be the
Right,
number 3 or 4 receiver.
right.
And as far real quick on the other guys. So Barrios, he's not good, but we got him because Gunner got hurt, our punt returner. So
Yep.
that's the only reason
He's a
why he's
great punt returner as a
great punt
Jet fan.
returner.
Yeah.
That might be the best move the Giants made out of these guys. And then real quick, Juju Smith-Schuster. I've never been a fan of him. I mean, I thought he was overrated. He had a couple of good years, but I don't mind a bunch of veterans cheap. Just bring them in.
Yeah.
You can cut them anytime. But listen, it's a smart move financially, and potentially, hopefully, we see that play out on the field.
Yeah, I mean, John Harbaugh loves Odell Beckham Jr., and I think
Yeah.
that says everything you need to know about that signing. And I'm with you, Jeff. Thinking back to the Giants of Odell Beckham, you have that one-handed catch against the Cowboys, and that's pretty much it. I mean, you look at the. I saw this stat on SportsCenter, and it was a crazy stat, and it's also going to own myself on this stat as well. But since that Miami boat picture, the New York Giants are 43, 106, and 1,
my God.
which is the second worst record over that time. I'm going to let you take one guess as to who the team that has the worst record than that is over that time, but I don't think you're going to need more than one guess.
New York Jets, baby.
That is correct.
Yep, of course.
So,
Yeah, but listen, it's not a risky move. I don't think he's going to come here and be the old Beckham as far as causing a problem.
No,
Listen,
I don't think so.
That's Jackson Dart's locker room, right? He's not going to be able to, come in there. I don't think he wants to either. Him and Dart are friends, apparently. So, I don't think it's going to be a problem. But
he saw how Harbaugh runs things when he was in Baltimore with him, and he sees that this is not the circus that was the Giants at that time with everything that was going on with them. This is going to be a legit organization where there's accountability, where everyone comes in and does their job and does what they're supposed to do and contributes to help the team. And that's the only thing that we're worried about is that.
Yeah. And, listen, we'll talk about the Dart part of the thing. And, one thing that we don't do on this show, and we will never do, is talk politics or give our opinion. But this, to me, is beyond the political thing. It's a locker room thing. Is this going to interrupt the locker room? I think it had a possibility of doing that because, we live in a world today where politics is so disgusting and it's so polarizing. So I blame social media for that. That's a whole different conversation. But I don't think this is a big deal. I mean, there's been pictures of Dart and Carter hugging it out. Listen, just like political issues or anything in life, like there's a gray area to everything. Like, there's multiple things that are right at once. Did Dart do anything wrong? Absolutely not. Should he have maybe said, you know what, considering the political climate in America, maybe I'll sit this one out and just focus on football? You can make that case too. Is Carter allowed to voice his opinion? Yes. Should he have done it on social media like an 8th grader that's breaking up with his boyfriend? No, he shouldn't have done that either. So there's so many right, wrong, rights here. It's so dumb to even talk about. But do I think this is going to disrupt the Giant locker room? I think we got lucky, Mike, that it's so early in the process and there's so much time before the season starts. It's probably already blown over.
Yep.
It's going to be completely forgotten. Now, you know what cures everything, Mike? Winning football games.
Correct.
So if the Giants win, then Dart's going to vote for Trump. Carter's going to vote for Trump, probably, right? So
right.
It's like, it's a non-issue.
Here's the other thing about that is helping the situation is you have the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals. You have a Yankees team that's doing really well, which we'll get to in a minute. You have a Mets team that's all over the place when it comes to what's going on with them. So there's a lot of other noise going on in New York, mostly the Knicks, that I think if there was nothing else going on and this was, the doldrums of August where there's no football, baseball's in kind of a lull spot, and this happened in August, I think you have a way different conversation than now. This is going to be completely forgotten about by the time we get to training camp and everything else where these guys are going to be seen hanging out and everything will be just fine.
Yeah, and listen, Dart and Carter came into the draft together. They're friends, right? And I think, listen, when you make it a public tweet, I think that's the biggest problem here. To be
Yep.
honest, you don't do that, man. Listen, you're entitled to your opinion. I don't care what your politics are. I have friends on both sides of the aisle. I don't judge people based on that. I really don't. And I don't think maybe Carter doesn't either. Maybe he's not as. I really think it
Yeah.
was just a lapse in judgment by Carter to go on social media and really make this a big thing. But look, it doesn't matter. I actually think, Mike, there's more people fighting on social media about this than in the Giant locker room. I don't think,
Yep.
and like I heard Tiki on the midday show, and he was talking about this, like, 'cause he knows football locker rooms, and he kept saying over and over, like, dude, this is not a big deal. These guys hugged it out. They talked about it. Like, they're both, potentially elite players. This is going to be all football. And you have John Harbaugh, who's steering the ship. He's not going to let this fester into training camp and then August and
Yep.
preseason. So this is a little, like, whatever you want to call it, a flash in the pan story, if you will, that just took on a huge life of its own, like everything in politics does.
Yep.
To me, it's a non-issue. I think at this point it's blown over, and they'll move on, and if they didn't already.
Yep. I would agree. I think you won't even remember that this actually happened unless they start off 0-4 and then things start getting crazy and every son starts bringing up nonsense from the preseason and everything else. Then that's when it gets to it. But as you said, you start off 3-1. No one's going to care about whatever anybody said about anything. You could say, whatever, you could talk about anything you want, and you're 3-1. I don't care. We're winning football games. We're 3-1. We beat the Cowboys and the Eagles to start the season off. So let's go.
What did you think about the Rams and Browns deal?
So I loved that Myles Garrett deal for the Rams. I mean, that is a scary defense, especially if you get what's his name that comes back from retirement, Aaron Donald, who decides if he wants to come in, and having those two guys on the line at the same time. Now, I know Aaron Donald is a step slower than what he was when they won the Super Bowl, but this is like a repeat of that, because that Super Bowl was at SoFi Stadium. They made a big trade for a defensive lineman for a lot of picks and everything else, and they are ready to rock and roll, because that defense is going to be very scary going forward.
Yeah, and Aaron Donald, a step slower, is still a step faster than everybody else.
Correct.
Right? So if he decides to come back, which I don't know why I could see why he would, because it'll be fun with him and Garrett. But I mean, if I'm like, once you retire, I'm more of a belief you stay retired. Especially in football, it's not like it's baseball or basketball. Come back and take those hits. Why? But listen, I like to trade for the Browns too, actually, to be honest with you, because Garrett was just a waste there.
Yep.
They're like 35 games under 500 with him, who's the best defensive player in the league. So it was the right move. I mean, the first round, pick they got in return, I'm not so sure how great that's going to be with the Rams, who might have the 32nd pick in the draft. But
correct,
you got yourself a first rounder. You also got a nice defensive player as well from the Rams. So it was, I thought, a good move for both teams. I would definitely favor the Rams in terms of who won this trade. Not that the Browns lost it, but the Rams, if they had a good pass rush last year, or like a Myles Garrett, they probably would have made the Super Bowl. Yep. And when it comes to the playoffs, I mean, how many of these games come down to that fourth quarter pass rush when it's a close game, right? You have a guy like Myles Garrett. I mean, geez, man, that team is going to be scary.
Yep, and to get there with 4 where you're not blitzing and then leaving guys one-on-one on the outside. If you can get there with 4, that's how you win football games in this NFL. So, the more guys like that you can get on your line, and a guy like that with the rest of that Rams defense, which was pretty good last year. It wasn't as good as it was when they won the Super Bowl, but it was pretty damn good. And now you're going to add him into that mix. That is really something. And then A.J. Brown, you knew it was over in Philadelphia. You knew there was not, the honeymoon was over. That thing was done week 7 last year. You knew he was not coming back after this year. He was going to get traded. The Patriots, they needed a receiver really desperately, and I'm glad that it's A.J. Brown, because I don't know if he's the stud wide receiver. He's not Randy Moss when they got him in New England when Tom Brady was there. He's not that kind of guy. I don't think he's a guy who can, lead the team. He wasn't really, even in when the Eagles were winning the Super Bowl, it wasn't like he was catching, 30 touchdowns or anything like that.
Yeah.
He was a good receiver, but he's not. It's not like they went out and got Garrett Wilson or one of these like really really unbelievably young stud wide receivers that are out there.
Yeah, and he's a royal pain in the ass. And
Correct.
There's nothing worse for a quarterback. I don't care if you're a 10-year vet or a second-year player or now third-year player like Drake May. There's nothing worse for a quarterback than a pain in the ass receiver that, he's good, but like you said, Mike, he's no Randy Moss. Like when you're Randy Moss, you could be a pain in the ass. You shouldn't be, but you can get away with it. When you're AJ Brown, who's very good, right? I'm happy he's out of the division, right? The Eagles didn't get better losing him. So, it's the right move by the Eagles too, because that team has been a complete mess. A complete mess, not even record-wise, forget that. Just the way that they're meshing. They don't get along. You know what I mean? And I think I got to tell you, Mike, with the Eagles, I'm not so sure how much longer Jalen Hurts has there either. And I'm a Jalen Hurts fan. I think he's underrated. I think he's underappreciated.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not happy there, man. There's something about maybe AJ Brown leaving will help him, maybe get a little happier. But he's not happy there. Him and the coach don't seem to get along. The players don't love him. I think you're going to see Jalen Hurts days numbered there too, potentially.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, I tend to agree that I think it was an AJ Brown problem than anything else with Jalen Hurts because you win a Super Bowl, you're done everything you want to do with that team. You made it to 2 Super Bowls, so it's not like this is a guy who is a flash in the pan. He's been very, very good ever since he's been there. And, AJ Brown is, once he started becoming a malcontent, that's kind of where it started to go awry for him. So hopefully this clears it out. It's Jalen Hurts' team. He's going to go in there. Saquon is going to do his thing. He's going to be healthy, and it's going to be a competitive division. I think all 4 teams in that division are very live. This could be, the better NFC East that we've seen in quite some time, top to bottom.
Listen, on paper, you would think there's going to be 4 really good teams, right? The Giants obviously improved in the coaching. They hopefully improve in the quarterback if he has a good second year or at least matches or gets better. Upgraded on defense. Receivers, if Malik Neighbors comes back healthy 100%, which is a little nerve-wracking now that we're hearing some stories. Their receiving core is upgraded. Offensive line's upgraded. They have Likely. People forgetting the Giants got Isaiah Likely, which I think is going to be the best signing the Giants made this offseason. I really do. The Giants are improved. The Commanders, not 100% sold on them, but they still can be good. The Cowboys are always good. I don't care what the stories are in the offseason. They're always good. And the Eagles are always there too. So, yeah, the NFC East, man, it has the potential to be a monster division and a really fun one to watch. And not just for me, but certainly a fun one to watch.
Yep, absolutely. So we have plenty of time to go before the NFL season starts, but we also do want to check in with our MLB teams. We hit our first real marker of the season. We're about a third of the way through or a quarter of the way through the season at this point. We are Yankees have played 60 games. This will be their 60th game tonight. Mets have played about the same as well. They have played 60 games as well. So we're, right at that third of the way through the season at this point, maybe a little bit further. Thoughts on the season? We've talked a little bit about it over the last couple of episodes, but this is a real time to take a step back and let's see where our teams are as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Yankees are playing good baseball. There's some glitches that you see every now and then, but they're 6-4 in their last 10. They're playing pretty good. They're only a game behind the Rays, who were the most dominant team in baseball at one point. So I think the Yankees, my check-in would be they're playing good. They're going to get to the playoffs. They're pretty much where I expected them to be as far as the record, as far as how I feel about the team. I'm not over the moon about them. I think there's still some holes that need to be patched, and I think they will be. I'm certainly not concerned at all. The Yankees are not going to make the playoffs by any stretch. The Judge injury, that scares me a little bit because of the shoulder. Initially, I heard it was a rib issue, like a bruised rib, which isn't a big deal, but the shoulder could be a problem.
Yep.
Depending on the severity of the situation, I guess we'll find out. He's day to day, I believe, is what I saw today, so that's maybe a good sign. But Mike, we got to talk about Garrett Cole, man. I did not expect this. Him to come
Yep.
back and pitch in the way he is. I mean, he looks like Astros early Yankees Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
If you look at this pitching staff, you put Garrett Cole in the mix, and you have a healthy Fried back. You have Max Fried, Cam Schlittler, and Garrett Cole as your 1-2-3 punch. I mean, how do you beat that if they're
Yep.
all playing? If they're all on, like to me, Cam Schlittler is the Cy Young leader right now.
Correct.
Fried, when he gets back, he'll be fine. He'll be good. But you got those three guys, Mike. I mean, if you're a Yankee fan, you got to do. This is one of the most talented pitching staffs we've seen in our lifetime on this team, and that's not hyperbole, man. They really are. I think the best pitching staff in the league, no question about it.
I would agree, with the exception of the bullpen. I think the bullpen is going to be something that they're going to have to address because I don't think a lot of these guys are going to have to go 7, 8 into the 8th inning or 9th inning of these games in order for us to get through and to win a lot of these, because the bullpen has really been sort of the one thing that really jumps out at you that could be a concern over the playoffs and getting into, real serious baseball down the stretch is what's this bullpen going to look like? Because that, as great as the starts as you're going to get, Cam should have like 3 or 4 more wins because of the bullpen has blown a couple of those games for him already. So, this is like almost a DeGrom situation with the Mets where you pitch your ass off and they don't really score, and then the bullpen gives up the game, and I don't want that to be the case. So they got to go out, find one of these teams that's kind of floundering here, and let's, get some sort of bullpen help out there. And you have some chips to play with to get it there too, which is nice.
Yeah, that's the big issue. The bullpen is definitely the problem. And in the playoffs, it can be a disastrous problem. And usually it is. How many times do you see pitchers throw 7 innings in the playoffs, right? No runs, maybe 2 hits, and the bullpen blows it, right? Good teams beat up on bad bullpens. So that's definitely a concern.
Yep.
But look, Cashman, I know he gets a lot of heat too, but quite frankly, he's usually pretty damn good at patching up the holes. Good enough to where he makes the playoffs every year, even when we're concerned. So yeah, I mean, they'll fix that. So I don't think it'll be an issue.
The thing that Cashman always says is the team's got to show me that I need to go out and make moves because they need something, because they are close to doing something really special. And this team really is, with the offense that they have, with the way that Ben Rice and Judge are going back and forth. You're going to get Stanton back at some point to get him back into the fold. You have Volpe and you have these guys, even if the guys who are struggling, even if you look at all right, so it looks like we lost Jeff there. As I was saying, we want to make sure that the Cashman goes in, they show that they're doing what they need to do, and the way that the team has been playing, it really makes sense for them to make a move to get to the bullpen there. Not sure where it happened to Jeff there. We'll try to get him back on here, but we really want to finish up here with a couple of things. We have the Mikey Mush picks from last week. We had the USA team in the World Juniors. They got knocked out in the semis by Canada, who ended up losing to Norway. The Norwegian team, and no one had them winning the whole World Junior Championship. But the other Mikey Mush pick, the World Surf League in New Zealand, we had our boy Ferreira win the whole thing. So that is a Mikey Mush win in the World Surf League. I don't know how I picked it. I have no idea I haven't surfed in about 25 years, but we did have a Mikey Mush win there. And I am going to take in, for this week, we're going to the AHL playoffs. I'm going to take the Toronto Marlies to win the entire thing. They're in the Eastern Conference Finals right now against the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. But, Canada's had a rough time of it here with hockey. They lose to Norway. They lost to the U.S. The Canadians got the doors blown off in the NHL. So let's give it to the Toronto Marlies to win the whole Calder Cup for the AHL. That's Mikey Mush's pick for this week. This was a fun show. Please like, subscribe. Everything's in the corner. Our link tree is there. Check out all our socials. Again, I will probably be on tomorrow night after the Knicks game. So check out, probably put something on Instagram or Facebook with my thoughts on game one. But thank you, everyone, for joining, and we'll see everybody soon.